Hey guys, it's Tuesday, October the 10th, 2023, and I want to make a video right now about something I didn't realize I had not really addressed or shared my thoughts and research on. But someone reached out to me this morning in an email and asked me if I could share with them what I thought about this, and it's concerning the Millennial Reign. There's a lot of people teaching right now that the Millennial Reign has already happened and that we're in the little season, which is described in Revelation 20. And it has been my understanding from what I've researched and looked at that that is not the case. And I want to show you what I have found so that when you are asked about this, then you have an answer for it. There's so much right now that's being taught that we've never heard taught before, and so it's kind of new, and we wonder if maybe there's something we missed. But I have prayed about this. I have sought the Father in this. I've asked for the Holy Spirit to give me discernment about this, and I'm going to share with you the things that I have found, and hopefully this might help dispel some of the things that you're seeing being taught about this. One thing I found is that, and I have read and listened to many people that have taught on this subject, it is mainly speculation. They cannot give you any definitive explanation for when these things took place. It's all symbolic. Nothing's literal. Okay, and I just want to share with you what I have found. And I'm going to share with you right now, first, before I do all that this quote that I heard from Chuck Missler years ago. And I don't believe everything he taught, but I do like this quote. He was asked if he had any regrets in his life. And he said the only thing he would have done differently is that he would have taken the Bible more literally. So we often chalk up things to symbolic nature or non-literal meanings, because there's some things we have trouble making sense of. But that doesn't mean it's not literal. And I'm going to give you a few examples of that here in Scripture. But first, I want to show you where it references the Millennial Reign in Revelation 20. And this is where it talks about the little season. You all can go read this full chapter on your own. But the one thing I want to point out to you is that there seems to be an order to this timeline. Now, the things in Revelation, I have often said, I don't believe that they are chronological, that there are some things that seem to overlap. And we have a lot of things that we need to be praying for discernment about. Clearly, Revelation can be a very confusing book. But here at the end, it describes some things as though it's giving us a definite chronology. And the thing that first seems to kick off the 1,000 years is the first resurrection of the dead. And I want to show you that. It's in verse 5, but it's describing those in verse 4 about how they ruled and reigned with Yeshua for 1,000 years. And these are the souls that were beheaded for the witness of Yeshua and for the word of the Father. They didn't worship the beast, neither took his image, neither had received his mark. Okay, and these are part of the first resurrection. Can anyone that believes the millennial reign has taken place already, can they tell us when the first resurrection was? Can they say? Does anybody know? I know history's been concealed and hidden and changed and corrupted. I know all of this, but the Father is not going to give us prophecy and then hide when it's fulfilled. Okay? No matter what they try to do to change history, he's going to preserve his truth, and he's going to show when these prophecies have been fulfilled. And no one that I've asked can tell me when this first resurrection happened. Okay? We know that some were raised up out of the graves when Yeshua died on the cross, and then they walked out into Jerusalem when he resurrected. But these weren't people that were beheaded. These were the prophets. These were the Old Testament prophets. some of them. All right, so they don't fit this description. They are not the first resurrection. All right, there's some other things that I want to show you about what I believe is literal. And I'm sorry for the shaky phone, but I'm holding this so that I can read some of these things to you. Okay, so let's go over to Zechariah 14. All right, we are shown a description of the reign of the king. And it doesn't specifically say millennial reign, but this is during a time when the current earth is still here. Jerusalem is still here. Mount of Olives is still here. Now, Isaiah 65 talks about a time after the current earth and the current heaven have been destroyed, and the new heaven and the new earth are here. But this in Zechariah 14 describes a time which I believe is describing the millennial reign. Okay, and it says that the Lord shall be king over all the earth. In that day there shall be one Lord, and his name one. But when that time comes here, look up here in verse 4. His feet shall stand in the day upon the Mount of Olives, which is before Jerusalem on the east, and the Mount of Olives shall cleave in the midst thereof, toward the east and toward the west, and there shall be a very great valley. All right, the picture that I used for this video is of the Mount of Olives. This prophecy has not been fulfilled. The Mount of Olives is still in one piece. And some people would argue, well, that's a Mount of Olives that's spoken of figuratively. That the Jerusalem that it's describing is someplace that we can't see right now, maybe a distant land or some other land that we're not made aware of. But the Father is going to, he's not going to give prophecy and then hide when it's fulfilled. So that's the other thing I want to point out. I mean, that's the picture that I've got for this video. I want you to look at that. Now, another thing that I think is most interesting is that these that teach that the millennial reign already happened, they said that that took place from 500 to 1500 AD. Well, you know what else took place between 500 and 1500 AD? Muhammad was born in 570 AD, the rise of Islam, the destruction of Jerusalem by the Islamic powers in 638 AD, and the Al-Aqsa Mosque was built in Jerusalem in 1035 AD. All of that was allowed during the millennial reign when the whole world would know him? Let's look furthermore in Zechariah 14, because this is important. I know history's been hidden, but they cannot hide something like this. Surely, where all the families of the earth keep the Feast of Tabernacles in Jerusalem? And I don't believe this would be a Jerusalem in some other far distant land that we're not made aware of. Otherwise, prophecy wouldn't be given to us about it, because you can't tell if it's been fulfilled or not. Do you see the point I'm making? I mean, this seems like it would be pretty important to know that during this time, when the King of the Lord of Hosts reigns, that all will be keeping the Feast of Tabernacles in Jerusalem? All the families of the earth? So even if it wasn't some undisclosed place, all the families of the earth would have to know about where it is so they can go and keep this Feast of Tabernacles. Has that happened yet? No one can say. All of these teaching that the millennial reign has already occurred, they can't tell you if this has been fulfilled. They can't tell you that the Mount of Olives has been cleaved in two. They say that was all figurative. But I would argue it's literal. Otherwise, how would we know when the prophecy is fulfilled if it's not fulfilled literally? There is a new covenant mentioned in Jeremiah 31 that says that during this time that his laws and commandments would be written on our heart, and that we would no longer need to teach anyone, because everyone would know him. The whole earth would be filled with his knowledge and the knowledge of who he is. Are we there yet? I mean, looking around, I don't see that as having been fulfilled. And I can't imagine that we would have already had the millennial reign where that was fulfilled, and then we go back to it not being fulfilled. I know that in this little season, talked about in Revelation 20, that the enemy is going to be given power to deceive many. Okay? I know that there will be a great deception during this time, but I can't imagine that that short season has been allowed to be ongoing with no instruction to the church. There's nothing that we're to watch for here. All it says is that he's just going to be loosed for a little season. And then as you come over here, and when the 1,000 years are expired, he's going to be loosed out of his prison to deceive the nations. And they're going to go up and encompass the camp of the saints about and the beloved city. And fire's going to come down from God out of heaven and devour them. And then the devil's going to be cast into the lake of fire. There's nothing there that says that during this little season, here's what you need to do. That new covenant has not happened yet because we're still under Yeshua's command to go and teach the Great Commission, which is everything he taught. And then the end would come. Yeshua, taught the gospel of the kingdom of Yahweh. And he says that when this gospel is preached, and this is found in Matthew 25, that when this gospel is preached, Matthew 24, then the end shall come. But here's what I want to point out to you. Most of the churches are primarily teaching the gospel of Paul. And Paul even calls it my gospel 3 times. Romans 2:16, Romans 16:25, 2 Timothy 2:8. Go look those up. Yeshua never called it his gospel. He always called it the gospel of the kingdom. John the Baptist called it the gospel of the kingdom. But Paul calls it my gospel. And that's what the churches are preaching. Is the gospel of Paul a delay tactic by the enemy? Because he knows that when the true gospel is preached, then the end will come? What end? If the millennial reign has already happened and the gospel of the kingdom is here, and everyone knew who the Father was, then the end would have come, right? But it didn't. So why are we still here? And hearing the gospel of Paul preached everywhere we go on Sundays. Those of you still going on Sundays. We should keep his Sabbath and know that Sunday is a counterfeit. But that said, I'm trying to explain that I have not seen any of this literally fulfilled yet. Now, here's the danger that I see. If those that are teaching that the little season is right now and we're in it, if they're right, we're good. I'm watching that I'm not deceived. And I'm on guard against the things that I have been told are coming. But if all that's already happened and history's just hidden it from us, then I'm good, because there's no other instruction given to us about what we're supposed to be doing during this time. Okay? But if they are wrong, and they're teaching that everything in the book of Revelation has already happened, including the mark of the beast, and there's no instruction given here for what we're to be watching for, so don't worry watching. I mean, it's all done, right? First resurrection's over, and we're just sitting around waiting for the second one. Then they are leading people into a state of sleep, a sleep state, I guess is what I'm trying to say. Because there's nothing to watch for in the little season, except that there's just going to be some deception. But if the mark of the beast has not been fulfilled, and people are told that we're already past all that and we're in the little season, they're not watching and on guard against it. And that, I believe, is the danger. So the point I'm making is, if you believe that we're in the little season and we're not, there could be some peril to you because you don't know what to watch for. You think it's all been fulfilled. But if we are not in the little season and we still need to be on guard for the things that will take place regarding the mark of the beast and the order of things, perhaps in Revelation, then believing otherwise could be to your peril. And I don't want to see anybody caught off guard. If the little season is right, okay, We're all there together. But if it's wrong, I'll leave you with this. Do not take the mark of the beast. You'll know it when you see it. And I believe that time is right upon us. Now, I know this video has already gone 15 minutes, but I will ask you all to please be in watch and prayerful consideration about what's going on over in the Middle East. I have my suspicions about all of that. I believe that the Father is about to make a big move on this cosmic chessboard. And I believe that what's being broadcast could be a grand deception. It could be going on. I'm not saying people aren't dying, and that's a shame, and I'm praying for all the innocent caught on both sides of this. But I do believe that we are being asked to look at the right hand while the left hand is up to no good. And so just ask the Father, pray and ask the Father for discernment and His wisdom to navigate all of these days ahead. And I personally am watching this coming weekend, October the 14th through the 17th, basically. There's a solar eclipse on the 14th. The child exits the womb or the constellation of Virgo. If y'all believe any of that, I don't know if that's a deception or not, but I'm still kind of keeping an eye on it. All right. And then I did a personal conversion from the Julian calendar to the Gregorian calendar from the chronology of James Ussher in the Annals of the World, in which he describes the first day of creation was October 23rd on a Sunday on the Julian calendar. I converted that to the Gregorian calendar. And under James Ussher's chronology, he says that the first day of creation was the evening preceding October the 23rd. So the October 23rd would have been technically the first day. It began the evening before. So when you do a conversion from the Julian calendar to the Gregorian, and we don't know which calendar the Father's going to use. He could use the Gregorian for all we know. But the October 14th date is what it arrived at from that conversion. So there's so much going on. This could be, we could still be yet to hear the trumpets for Feast of Trumpets, guys. I mean, let's not throw things out because we think they've already passed. We need to stay alert and watching no matter what comes, and just pray vigilantly for the Father's wisdom and discernment to navigate. All right. Thank you all for listening. I hope you're blessed by what I shared here. And I'm going to leave the comments open. If you want to speak to this topic, then we'll discuss it. And you all have a great day. And thanks again for listening.